Next in our presentations and our mission to ease your transition, we have Amanda. That's the voice that you heard asking the questions of Sonia, and Amanda Blais, who is also a senior coordinator here at Disabilities Coordinator at PMC. Amanda is going to tell you about learning strategies that you can use when you move on to post-secondary college or university. So Amanda, it's over to you.
Thank you, Patty, and hello everyone out there. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amanda, and I will be talking to you about learning strategies. Again, we tend to focus a lot of our information on what we know here at Carleton, but a lot of the things I'll be talking to you about today will apply to anywhere you choose to go. So we're going to get started by taking a look at what I'm going to be talking about today. So we'll be talking about what learning strategies actually is. We're going to talk a little bit more about the differences between school and high school and university, which Sonia already touched on for us, which is awesome. How to get started with learning strategies. What areas does learning strategies address? 3 levels of time management. As Sonia hinted, that is a super important one for post-secondary. And of course, I would love to have some questions from all of you throughout the session. So let's start us off with a poll. You should be used to these by now. So I believe we're going to go over to poll everywhere. And what I'm asking you today is, what do you think are the biggest differences between going to school in high school and in post-secondary? And again, we only get one word. So I'll give you a moment to log into that pollev.com/makethecut2022. Let's see if we can have some responses rolling in here. Always wait in anticipation of what's going to come up first. It's more independent, harder, homework, freedom, responsibilities for sure, freedom again, excellent, workload, independent, big, can be. Awesome. So what are the biggest differences between going to school and high school and in post-secondary? We've got a lot of things going on there. We talk about class sizes, we talk about our responsibilities, independence. So there's a lot to think about. I actually had one student say, thank you so much for filling out that poll everywhere. I love to see everyone's responses. I've also had one student remind me that a big difference between high school and post-secondary is there's no bells. So there's nothing to signify that you're going from one class to another. As Sonia alluded to, everything that happens in post-secondary is essentially self-driven. So that's where we're going to get started, is understanding how to drive yourself, or metaphorically speaking, I should say, or how to, get yourself to class or to campus or the different places you need to be. So let's take a look at the next slide there on how to get started. So Sonia already talked about how important it is to connect with the Disabilities Office, or Accessibility Office, as some post-secondaries refer to it as. So again, when in doubt, connect with your coordinator or your counselor, and we will direct you to right places. There's also people called departmental advisors. So those folks are the people within each individual faculty who know what courses you're supposed to be registered for, how many courses you should be taking in a term. They can even probably talk to you a little bit about where your degree might be able to take you. So departmental advisors are super helpful. Your professors, of course, are always going to be great people to connect with. And as I'm sure our students panelists will tell you this afternoon, they're not as intimidating as they seem, as well as someone called teaching assistants, or TAs, as we like to call them. So those folks are the content matter experts in the areas that you'll be studying. People like the student success specialists can be really helpful. So I'm talking about learning strategies that happen specifically in our department for students with disabilities, but there are campus-wide learning services for anybody registered at university or Carleton, and that's everywhere you go. There will be a learning center that you can connect with, and they'll cover things like note-taking, budgeting, reading skills, writing papers. There's a lot out there to help you out. As well as residence advisors or RAs. So for those of you who are planning to live in residence wherever you go, there will also be an upper year student who will manage your floor. They'll be there to answer questions, help you with your transition. So you don't really have to go very far to ask for help. Just like Sonia was saying, really important to put yourself out there. And if you've got a question, throw it out there. For those people who are planning to come to Carleton in September, all staff wear this little Ask Me button. So if you see that roaming around campus, you can always ask that person for help as well. So after you figure out who to connect with, we then need to think about what learning strategies actually is and why should I care about it. So learning strategies is a one-on-one appointment with a professional staff person such as myself. And actually, we also hire a lot of student staff too to help with providing learning strategies, which is pretty cool. And what's really cool about learning strategies is that we tailor what we do with you based on what you want to work on. So let's say, for example, you often find doing your readings to be really challenging. We can talk to you about reading strategies or even some assistive technology, wink to Jordan, that might help you with your readings. We also will try and tailor it all so that you can really think about what it means to be metacognitive. Big word, it just means understanding how we think about thinking. And in this context, maybe even how we, understand ourselves as a learner. So then that way, things don't have to seem as difficult as they might at first, because there's a lot of different solutions and strategies to check out. And not all strategies will apply to all courses. So it's really important to kind of build up that toolkit so that you can vary up how you're learning. We move beyond skills-based teaching to improve self-regulated learning. So again, when we incorporate that idea of making sure that you're spacing out your studies, so you're not trying to cram everything for the night before, which is never a fun experience for any of us, that would be the things that you'd be working on with the learning strategies. And I will say we had so many students come to us throughout the pandemic because online learning was a whole new experience for a lot of people. And we're expecting that this fall, everyone's going to be coming to us to remember how to learn again in person. And that's okay. There's a lot of us who are going to need to be working with each other to navigate these new environments that we're learning in. And it's really important to be an active participant, right? So if you know something's not going to work for you, tell the person you're working with, but also try and keep an open mind and try something new. The important thing to remember about different services is that accessing the services is not required on campus. So no one will ever know that you need help unless you put yourself out there. But it is recommended to access the services for success. That's why there's so many services on campus. So working with a learning strategist is just one of probably hundreds that exist on campus for students to access. The areas of development that we often address with students are things like reading strategies, writing strategies, of course, time management and task management, problem solving, organization, studying, note-taking, test taking, and other academic skills. Like I said before, we often try and pair a learning strategy with an assistive technology or something that really helps to alleviate how much our brains are trying to work at processing so much information. So again, we want to make sure that you're learning in a space that works best for you, because that's the beauty of post-secondary, is that it's all about you. You get to choose what classes you want to take. You get to choose how involved you are in things. So, you can take it at your own pace and no one will know any different. So how do we fit these puzzle pieces that hold everything together? And Sonia already talked about it in her presentation. And that really big glue that holds all the puzzle pieces together is time management. And for many of us, time management has never probably been something that's super easy, and that's okay. The whole point of time management is understanding and discovering different systems that might work for you, and not every system works for people in the same way. Generally speaking, we like to think of time management in 3 different levels. So if you can, always start off with a term calendar. So that's quite commonly a 4-month calendar where you will have all 4 months up on the wall to be able to look at when your due dates are. There's weekly schedules and there's to-do lists. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the term calendar. So like I said, once you get your syllabuses or outlines from your professors, if you want to go to the next slide there, perfect. In September, those outlines will have all your due dates, your test dates, all of the things that happen in your classes will be in those. So it's really important to take those dates and throw them into your term calendar. You'll also want to be sure to include the percentages that things are worth so that you know how to prioritize your time and what you should do first. And it can even be helpful to color code so that you can start to see the difference between, what class has a little bit more work so that you can, again, shift your priorities throughout the week. And like it says here, make sure to make it visible. So a lot of us will default to digital calendars because they have reminders. And yes, I still highly encourage using those, but it's also super helpful to have something printed and in front of you that you can just observe on a daily basis to make sure you're staying on track. Then we talked about a weekly schedule. So the one we have up here is one that shows you not just planning for the times that you are in class, but you're going to plan for homework time. I love to plan like travel time. How long does it take to get to campus or to class? It's really important to schedule time for yourself. It seems kind of intuitive, but a lot of people forget to plan the time when they're not doing schoolwork. So it's really great to be able to get yourself into a little bit of a routine so that you know what's coming. So the less your brain has to think about what's coming next, because it tends to be something that is the same from week to week, the easier it is for it to focus on other things that you need to be focusing on. So that's just my spiel on weekly schedules. And again, that can fluctuate too, depending on what's going on in life. And then the last thing we'll talk about with time management is to-do lists. So essentially, what are you going to be doing that day? So we kind of went from big picture to small picture. So what's going to happen in the term, what's going to happen in the week, and what's happening today. And here we have a cute little matrix that talks to us about what you consider high versus lower priorities. And so that matrix just kind of helps you identify what tasks you need to do now, what tasks you need to do next, what tasks you need to do when you're finished, and maybe what tasks you need to delegate or just never do. So really thinking about being intentional about what's on that to-do list. And again, a learning strategist can help you understand all of these different components as well. Kind of a couple of our favorite time management trackers, or what we also refer to as productivity tools, are things called the Pomodoro technique and Don't Break the Chain. Pomodoro is awesome because studies have shown that most of us can only sustain our attention for about 20 minutes at a time, which means I might have lost most of you already because we've already been talking for about 50 minutes so far for Make the Cut, which is why your break's coming up. But essentially what you want to do is choose a task, and you want to be intentional about what you want to do during that 20 minutes. And then once your timer goes off to take a quick 5-minute break, you can either reassess, did I complete that task? Did I lose track and do something else? So it really helps to kind of keep you focused and give you an idea of how productive you're being. And don't break the chain is another really cool concept that helps you identify a goal that you're trying to work towards. So let's say, for example, you're in math and you need to do math practice all of the time. So maybe you might choose, I'm going to do math practice 3 times a week, and that's your goal. Seems pretty manageable. You might even want to set a time. So I'm going to do math practice for 10 minutes 3 times a week. So that often seems a lot more attainable than just, I need to do math practice, which is pretty open-ended. You don't really know how often you need to do it or how long you should be doing it for. So if you can set some small, more manageable goals for yourself, don't break the chain can be really helpful. My caveat to don't break the chain is try not to work towards more than 3 goals at a time, because things can get like really overwhelming. And if you can really focus on maybe 2 academic goals and maybe 1 personal goal, that should be your limit at any given time. In this PowerPoint slide, I should say that the hyperlinked underneath these are videos that teach you how to use those skills. So if you wanted to learn about it on your own, it's a great place to get started. Next slide, please. Perfect. Why start with time management? So again, the main thing to remember is that a lot of your peers will have different times. So even if you're in the same classes as most of your friends, odds are you're not going to be in all of the same classes like you might be used to in high school or have a lot of the same classes. So you're going to need to build your own routine. And there's really not going to be a case where, professors or TAs are going to chase you for due dates. And so the only person, again, that you can count on to get some of your facts in order is yourself. So again, you're going to really want to focus on when those due dates are, because although we're used to a lot of flexibility in terms of deadlines, in post-secondary, there's not as much flexibility there. So you really want to start planning ahead and meeting with your professors or your TAs to talk about how to plan to complete things. Sometimes people have accountability partners, so either friends or family members, or I even get used as a learning strategist sometimes and as accountability partner, just to make sure that you're moving along towards some of the deadlines that are coming up. Because again, everything is very self-driven in university. And you're going to find out, like I've said before, kind of how to set up your schedule or how to manage your dates through your course outlines or the syllabi. I still don't know the plural to that word. Your professors and TAs will post, due dates and things within the class schedule, as well as your coordinator and your learning strategist can, again, help you to understand how to plan out things. So yes, you're going to be the one completing all the work, but you still have people here to support you and help you understand what strategies you might want to try for time management. And for those folks who are coming to Carleton, if you already have your student number, you can sign up for our more modules on Brightspace, which focus on study strategies that I've talked about today and a few more, and we're always creating new ones. But these modules will help you, give you an introduction to learning strategies and assistive technology, which Jordan will be talking about after the break. It'll also talk to you about whether or not, after you've done those introduction modules, whether or not you want to meet with someone one-on-one. So some folks like to try things on their own first and then reach out for help. Other people like to reach out for help right off the bat and then try the things on their own. So again, it's all up to you, the order in which you want to do things. It gives you a space that you can continue going back to. So even if you do choose to work with a learning strategist, maybe you're not working with them in your 3rd year, but you want to be reminded of the things that come up that might have changed based on the courses you're taking. So you can always go back and access those modules. And the current modules that are available are modules on time management, note-taking, and studying. Like I said, that's what exists here at Carleton. Check out the institutions that you're going to see if they have learning modules available for you to explore. Because as Sonia mentioned during her session, there might be some things that you can try over the summer before September starts, just to kind of prep and get ready for a few things. So this is our contact information if you want to get a hold of us over the summer and ask more questions, which we always encourage. Please keep your questions coming in. We're located in 501 University Center. Our phone number is 613-520-6608. The Learning Strategies email is PMC_LS@carleton.ca. And as you probably all know, our website for PMC is carleton.ca/PMC, which is where a lot of folks clicked the join button to find today's event.